A down payment on a better life. Chapter 1, The Waking Mouth. I awake inside a big box store, folded into a cigar box, excavated from a landfill, where the last opera singer choked on her final note. I wake with breath that tastes of myrrh and formaldehyde, of too many nights spent calculating which abusive ex-girlfriend's voice would sound most like my mother's when she screamed. The rings I wear on T days and S days are not jewelry, but small screaming mouths. Gothic Baroque things that bite my fingers until they bleed silver. Today is Wednesday, which means my hands are naked, and I can see the scars where I tried to remove my own fingerprints with a cheese grater in 2019. In my pocket, a note. But when I pull it out, it's written in a handwriting that shifts, child's crayon becoming doctor's prescription, becoming ransom demand, becoming my own shaking scrawl. Brick red, says the crayon box in the corner, or blood red, or placenta red. The letters swim. You are here to put a down payment on a better life. But beneath that, in smaller text, visible only when I blink, payment plans available for those already deceased. The store smells like uric acid and something else, that specific rod of meat that's been sitting in a warm car trunk for 3 days. I realize I'm standing in the garden section, surrounded by bags of fertilizer and bone meal, and the fluorescent lights are making a sound like screaming heard through water. A voice over the PA system keeps saying, "Clean up on aisle 7." But the number 7 keeps glitching, becoming 700, 7,000. The numerical value of my sins, if sins were calculated in currency exchange rates. Chapter 2, The Graveyard Courtship Ritual. I have been bringing flowers to cemeteries as foreplay. The pattern is established, a liturgy of dysfunction. Meet someone from casual encounters. Bring flowers, the colors rotate according to a system I no longer remember the logic of. Lock eyes, begin crying. Place flowers on the nearest grave to my right. Always right, never left. Changing this would be like changing which direction blood flows. Tonight the flowers are purple tulips, and they're already rotting in my hands, leaking a juice that might be water, or might be something the flowers produce when they sense they're going to be used as props in someone's psychodrama. The woman, Margaret or Margit, or some other M name that sounds like gargling, watches me with eyes that keep multiplying in my peripheral vision until she's an angel from Ezekiel, all wings and wheels and judgment. Harold Lenson, soldier, father, husband, 1930-22004. Diane McCurran, who danced through life, 1950-11992. Sally and Eric Kovlowski, our children perished, 1980-11987. But when I turn left instead of right, breaking the pattern, breaking the spell, I find it. Something forgettable. Your day has finally come. 1980-72025. The month is blank. A space for the reaper to fill in with his red pen. I can see him in the periphery, a bureaucrat with a clipboard, waiting for me to provide the exact date so he can file the paperwork. Margaret's breathing becomes visible, not just vapor in October air, but actual strands of breath, like spider silk, connecting her lungs to mine. When she speaks, I can taste her words, metal and fear, and the aftertaste of whatever she ate for lunch. Probably a salad, probably one of those sad desk salads that people eat while crying at their computers. Are you okay? But I hear, are you already dead? Chapter 3, the therapeutic industrial complex. Dr. Wendy Kohlberg answers on the fourth ring, or maybe the 4,000th ring. Time has become porous. Her voice carries the exhaustion of 1,000 crisis calls, a palimpsest of every patient who's called after hours to report they've found their own grave, or their own body, or the place where their body will eventually decompose into commodity. I found my own grave, I say, but what comes out is, I found the receipt for my own grave. We've talked about the difference between metaphor and reality, but have we? In my memory of our sessions, Dr. Kohlberg is sometimes human, and sometimes a hand puppet operated by my mother, who is operated by my first girlfriend, who is operated by strings that disappear into the ceiling. The office exists on the 17th floor, but sometimes we meet underground, in the basement, where they keep the files of patients who died mid-treatment and never finished their healing arcs. Where are you? I'm standing in front of my grave in Greenlawn Cemetery, watching a woman I may have had sex with, or may have only imagined having sex with back away slowly, while her face does that thing faces do when they realize they're in a story that might end badly for secondary characters. Dr. Kohlberg sighs, and the sigh is the sound of a filing cabinet closing, of a diagnosis being written, of insurance claims being denied. In that sigh, our 18 months of sessions, each one a small death, a practice dying, a rehearsal for the real thing. Take a photo, leave. Can you do that? I can. The flash illuminates my name, and the letters glow phosphorescent, like the numbers on a watch face in a dark room, like the markings on deep-sea fish that live where light doesn't reach. The stone looks wet even though it hasn't rained. Everything in graveyards looks wet. This is a rule. Margaret has left tire tracks in the gravel that spell out words when you look at them from above, from the God's eye view, from the security camera that may or may not be recording this. The words say, abandon, abandon, abandon. Chapter 4, the transaction. The big box store pulses. That's the only word. Pulses. Like a heart, like a wound, like the throb of infection spreading through tissue. The fluorescent lights are too bright, but also somehow not bright enough, creating shadows in impossible places, under the shopping carts, inside people's mouths when they speak, beneath the price tags. A teenager in a red vest approaches. His name tag says Kyle, but underneath, in smaller letters, temporary. I can't tell if this refers to his employment status or his mortal condition. I need to make a down payment on a better life, I say. He points toward electronics without speaking. His finger is too long. I notice this. It bends in one too many places. In electronics, the televisions are all playing the same show. Security footage of me walking through the store, walking through this exact moment. A closed loop, a snake eating its own intestinal tract. On one screen, I'm wearing the rings. On another, I'm naked. On a third, I'm already a skeleton, bones clicking against the linoleum. Home goods, a display of decorative boxes. One of them is the cigar box I woke up in, or its twin, or its progenitor. Inside, another note, this one printed in Helvetica, which is the font of bureaucracy and death notices and terms of service no one reads. Down payments are non-refundable. Terms and conditions apply. Please see associate for details. In the event of customer death, remaining balance will be extracted from estate. In the event of estate insufficiency, payment will be extracted from next of kin in order of genetic proximity. BRENDA. Her name tag screams it. 15 years of service, which means she's been here since before I learned to sabotage relationships, which means she's witnessed the entire arc of my dysfunction from the commercial perspective. Is this for the store credit card? It's for a better life. Honey, we don't sell those here. We sell things you put in a life. You have to bring your own life. This is the most profound thing anyone has ever said to me, or the most obvious, or the same statement from different angles of light. I buy the box. The transaction completes with a sound like a car door closing on a small animal, that specific thump of something irreversible. In my car 2004 Honda Civic, check engine light glowing like a holy relic. Another note has appeared in the box, growing like mold, like a Polaroid developing in reverse, getting darker instead of lighter. You know what you have to do, but the letters are moving, crawling across the paper like insects, and when I try to read them, they scatter. Chapter 5, Ashley Don't. The drive to Ashley's apartment takes 17 minutes or 17 years. Time has become negotiable. The GPS keeps saying recalculating, but I'm not sure if it's talking about the route or my entire life. She answers the door in a bathrobe that might be white, or might be the color of teeth after they've been in a body for 32 years. Her hair is wet and getting wetter, dripping not just water, but something else, something that hisses when it hits the floor. No, just that, a complete sentence, a complete philosophy, a complete rejection of narrative momentum. I found my grave. It has this year on it, 2025, with the month left blank like a Mad Lib, like someone's waiting for me to fill in the funny answer before the punchline kills me. She looks at me with eyes that have too much white, like hard-boiled eggs, like the eyes of horses before they bolt. Come in, 10 minutes. If you try anything, her apartment hasn't changed, except it has. The walls are closer together. The vanilla candles smell like vanilla extract mixed with formaldehyde. The couch we bought together at an estate sale, whose estate, whose death funded our brief attempt at cohabitation, sits there like a witness, like evidence, like a body. I show her the photo. She studies it with the intensity of someone reading their own biopsy results. Who tried, that's so you, it's almost funny. Almost. Is it real? Of course it's not real. Or of course it is. Reality is not the question. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to die on schedule? Or are you going to fuck up death the way you fuck up everything else? Ashley sits on our couch, on the ghost of our relationship, on the place where we used to pretend we could save each other. You probably put it there yourself during one of your episodes, during the lighthouse incident, or the cult month, or that week you convinced yourself you were supposed to learn to taxidermy because preserving dead things seemed metaphorically relevant. The note said I'm supposed to make a down payment on a better life. Then make one. Stop performing your damage. Stop treating your dysfunction like it's a personality. Stop showing up places you shouldn't be with flowers and apologies, and that look on your face like you're the protagonist of your own tragedy, when really you're just a supporting character in everyone else's attempt to have a normal life. She stands. The 10 minutes are up, or have never started, or are eternal. I loved you, past tense, archaeological tense, the tense reserved for civilizations that collapsed under the weight of their own contradictions. But I can't save you. Nobody can save you except you, and you won't, because you've mistaken drowning for swimming, because you've mistaken the performance of suffering for actual depth. The door closes, or I close it, or it was always closed, and this entire conversation happened in the hallway, in the threshold, in the liminal space between her life and my death. Chapter 6. The diner at the end of the world. Route 9. The diner. Eat in flickering neon that might be a command, or a threat, or a prayer. Inside, the usual congregation of 2 a.m. worshippers, people who have given up on sleep or been given up by sleep, people whose circadian rhythms have divorced them. Lorraine. Her name tag might as well say prophet or psychopomp. She pours coffee with the disinterest of someone who has poured coffee through the heat death of the universe, through previous iterations of reality, through my multiple attempts to get clean, sober, better dead. Rough night. I found my grave. Mine's been dug for years. I'm just running out the clock until the invitation arrives. She says this cheerfully, like she's talking about a dinner party she's not looking forward to, but will attend anyway because she already RSVP'd. I love her immediately, the way you love anyone who confirms that your specific brand of horror is actually universal, actually normal, actually boring. You ever feel like your life is a down payment you keep making, but the thing you're buying never arrives. Every goddamn day, honey. That's called being alive. That's called having a body. That's That's called being born without signing the contract, but still having to make payments. My phone, a chorus of notifications. Dr. Kohlberg commanding my presence. Margaret or Margit casting me out. Jennifer, seriously don't, warning me away from Ashley, who I've already left, who has already left me, who we've already left each other in a mutual abandonment that should have been final. But nothing is ever final. I turn off my phone. The silence is violent. In that silence, the griddle sizzle, the murmur of conversations about things that matter to people who still believe things can matter. The clink of silverware, which is just the sound of time passing in small metallic increments. The decorative box has sprouted another note. They're growing faster now, like a terminal diagnosis, like mold, like the truth zero. The down payment is not money. The down payment is not flowers or rings or midnight confessions to people who have restraining orders against your emotional presence. The down payment is the decision to stop excavating your own grave. I turn it over. My handwriting, you know what you have to do. And I do. I do. I do. 3 iterations of knowing, like a wedding vow, like a confession, like the last words before they flip the switch. Chapter 7, the unburdening. I throw away the rings. One by one into the diner trash, listening to them clink against styrofoam and coffee grounds, and the accumulated waste of other people's ordinary lives. Each ring is a small scream going silent. Each ring is a day of the week. I no longer have to perform being the person who wears Gothic, Baroque gasping things. Tuesday gone. Thursday gone. Saturday gone. Sunday gone. 4 rings. 4 days. 4 small deaths of the self I've been performing. Lorraine watches without judgment, which is its own kind of judgment. The worst kind, the kind that says I've seen this before. I've seen this 1,000 times. You are not special in your suffering or your recovery. Those looked expensive. They were. I bought them instead of paying my electric bill. I bought them instead of eating. I bought them instead of having a life. Good investment. Next, the phone. Deleting contacts is like surgery without anesthesia. Ashley don't vanishes with a swipe. Jennifer, seriously don't, disappears. Clarissa, the worst one, ceases to exist in my pocket universe. Margaret or Margit becomes nobody. The casual encounters number becomes void. 3 previous therapists erased. My dealer gone. My bookie void. I keep Dr. Kohlberg. I keep my mother's number even though we haven't spoken in 2 years. Even though her voice is a knife I've been swallowing. I keep the suicide prevention hotline, that insurance policy, that emergency exit that I've never used, but carry like people carry crosses, or lucky pennies, or photographs of dead children. The phone feels lighter, but also heavier. The weight has relocated from quantity to quality, from noise to signal, from everybody to somebody to nobody, to the right body. What are you running from? Lorraine sits across from me during her break. lighting a cigarette even though smoking is forbidden, even though the signs say no smoking in letters that might as well say no breathing or no existing. Nobody stops her. When you've worked somewhere for 15 years, you earn the right to break certain rules, to exist outside certain laws, to smoke while Rome burns. My own life. I'm running from my own life, but it follows me everywhere because it's attached to my body, which is attached to my consciousness, which is attached to this meat puppet I'm operating from the inside. You can't run from that. Believe me, I've tried. I've tried so hard I've given myself stress fractures in the bones of my intention. She stubs out the cigarette. The ember dies like a tiny sun collapsing, like hope, like the light in someone's eyes when they realize you're going to disappoint them. I keep waiting for my real life to start. The good one. The one where I'm not like this. This is the real one, honey. This is the only one. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can stop treating it like a rough draft and start treating it like a suicide note you're writing in real time. She goes back to work. I sit there until dawn, watching the shift change of consciousness, watching night people become day people, become night people, become corpses, become memories, become nothing. Chapter 8, The Stone Surgery. The cemetery in daylight is pornographic in its honesty. No romantic shadows, no gothic atmosphere, just stone and grass, and the administrative reality of death, packaged for efficient disposal and storage. Capitalism has reached even here, into the ground, into the rot, into the final transaction. My grave still there, still mine, still waiting. I have tools, chisel and hammer from when I thought I'd take up woodworking, when I thought creating things might be the opposite of destroying myself. The tools are pristine because I never used them, because I never followed through, because I am a museum of untried things. I kneel. I begin to destroy my own epitaph. The stone resists. It doesn't want to give up its message. Each chip of rock feels like a tooth being pulled, like a splinter of bone, like a piece of myself breaking free. A groundskeeper, old, weathered, face like leather that's been left in the sun too long, like a warning about what happens when you work among the dead for decades. You can't do that. It's my grave. Nobody's buried there. Then why is there a stone? He kneels beside me. His fingers trace my name like he's reading Braille, like he's receiving prophecy through touch. Someone pays for this plot, has been paying for years. The stone was placed last month. Someone knows you well enough to predict when you'll die and what should be said about you when you do. Who's paying? Trust company, Feldman and Associates, but they won't tell you anything. Confidentiality. The dead don't get privacy, but the dying do. He leaves me with my half-destroyed grave, with my partially obliterated name, with my future becoming abstract, becoming anyone's future, becoming nobody's. Chapter 9. Feldman and the architecture of anticipated death. The building is glass and steel, and the kind of modern architecture that says we have erased personality in favor of efficiency. We have replaced souls with systems. We have made death itself a product with terms of service. 17th floor. The receptionist's smile has been practiced until it means nothing, until it's just a muscle contraction, just a facial gesture that translates to I am paid to pretend I care that you exist. I need to speak to someone about a trust. Do you have an appointment? No, but someone bought my grave. Someone is planning my death like it's a surprise party. Someone has been leaving notes like I'm the protagonist in a mystery I didn't consent to be in. The smile cracks. Something human underneath. Something that recognizes horror even in a Tuesday morning. Please have a seat. The waiting room smells like leather and money, and the quiet desperation of people managing their deaths as carefully as they've managed their lives. People who believe that proper planning can somehow make death less dead, less final, less inevitable. Gerald Feldman emerges, suit like armor, face like a contract, voice like terms and conditions being read aloud. You're inquiring about the Greenlawn Cemetery plot. How did you know? Because you're the fourth person to inquire about it this year. Your mother in March, your ex-girlfriend Ashley in June, your therapist Dr. Kohlberg in September, and now you, like clockwork, like a schedule, like something planned. The room tilts. Reality shifts its weight. The building sways, or I sway, or we're all swaying together in the earthquake of this information. My mother bought my grave. No, but she wanted to know who did. They all wanted to know who did. Who did? Feldman opens a folder. Documents. My life in paperwork. My death in contracts. You did 7 years ago. You were 25. You came in here with a cashier's check for $15,000 and very specific instructions about how the money should be used. You said, according to the notes from my predecessor, you said it was important that your future self discover this organically, that the knowledge be earned rather than given, that you couldn't trust yourself to remember, so you needed to set up a system that would force you to investigate your own death. He slides the document across. My signature. 7 years younger, more confident. The handwriting of someone who still believed in control, in planning, in the possibility of tricking yourself into survival. What were the instructions? The plot was to be purchased and maintained. A stone was to be placed in 2025 with specific wording. Notes were to be left for you in locations you would find them, though how we were supposed to know where you'd be was left vague. You said something about trusting the pattern of my own dysfunction to lead me where I need to go. The trust also contains instructions for after your death, which I obviously can't share with you. Confidentiality extends beyond the grave, even your own grave. Why would I do this? You tell me. You're the one who engineered this entire haunting. You're the one who decided to become your own ghost before you died. I try to remember being 25. Try to recall what version of myself would have been this calculating, this cruel, this convinced that future, me would need an elaborate mystery to force self-examination. I remember being in love with someone whose face I can no longer see. I remember having a job I'd already quit in my mind. I remember believing I would die young because everyone interesting dies young, because I was desperate to be interesting, even if it meant being dead. The note said I need to make a down payment on a better life. That's not part of the trust documents. That's freelance. That's you continuing to haunt yourself in real time. Feldman leans back, studies me like I'm a puzzle, like I'm evidence, like I'm a case study in how to survive yourself. Maybe you're still leaving notes. Maybe the 25-year-old you set up the frame, but the 32-year-old you is filling in the picture. Maybe you're trying to save yourself in the only way you know how, by turning your own death into a game you might win. Chapter 10, The Return to Origin. My mother's house. The house I haven't entered in 2 years. The house that contains my childhood and her disappointment in equal measure, both perfectly preserved like specimens in formaldehyde. She answers the door in gardening gloves, dirt on her jeans, surprise on her face that might be genuine or might be the face she's practiced for this moment. The return of the prodigal son, the son who is prodigal in all the wrong ways. You're alive. Were you expecting otherwise? I know about the grave. I called them. I called that trust company and demanded to know who was planning your death like it was a corporate retreat. She lets me in. The house smells like my childhood, pot roast and pine cleaner, and the subtle anxiety of a single mother raising a son who turned out to be me, who turned out to be this, who turned out to be someone who engineers his own haunting. Kitchen table, scene of 1,000 breakfasts, 1,000 questions about homework and friends and plans for the future, all of which I answered with variations of I don't know. Because even as a child I knew that knowing was dangerous, that commitment was a trap, that saying what you wanted was the fastest way to guarantee you'd never get it. Why did you check on the grave? Because I'm your mother. Because you disappeared for 2 years, and I didn't know if you were alive or dead, or in that space between where you seem to prefer living. Because I love you, even though you make it very hard to love you. Even though loving you is like loving a car crash in slow motion. Even though every time I think you've hit bottom, you find a new bottom beneath the bottom. The most honest thing anyone has said to me in years. The most painful. The most true. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't mean anything without change. Sorry is just a sound you make with your mouth. Sorry is just air shaped into a word that means nothing unless the behavior that necessitated the apology stops happening. She holds my hands across the table. Her hands are rough from work, from gardening, from actual living, from actual commitment to something beyond her own neuroses. Her hands are hands that do things, build things, grow things. Mine are hands that destroy, that ruin, that turn everything they touch into evidence of my own dysfunction, the 25-year-old who came to me before he set up that trust. He asked me what I thought would save you. I told him nothing would save you except yourself, but he seemed to think that creating some kind of scavenger hunt of your own mortality would force you to pay attention to your own life. I thought it was stupid then, and I think it's stupid now. But here we are, and you're actually here, so maybe he was right. Maybe you needed to become your own detective, investigating your own death, to realize you want to live. What did he say to that? He said, "I'm going to die young unless I can trick myself into wanting to live." And I said, "Then you better make it a good trick." And he did. He made it a very good trick. He made it so good you almost died trying to solve it. We sit in the kitchen as evening becomes night. She makes pot roast even though I'm not hungry. I eat it anyway because refusing would be another form of refusal, another way of saying no to life. And I am trying to stop saying no, trying to start saying yes, trying to trick myself into survival one bite at a time. Chapter 11, The Father's Box. My apartment. Above the Korean restaurant. The smell of kimchi stew permeating everything, making my clothes smell like fermentation, like the process of rot becoming food, like death becoming life, becoming sustenance. The note on my door. My handwriting, 7 years matured, but still recognizably mine. The down payment is complete when you stop reading notes and start writing your own story. P.S. Open Dad's box. Dad's box. 5 years closed. Since his death. Since the funeral where I got drunk and hit on my cousin, because self-destruction is my most consistent skill. Since the will reading where I learned he left me nothing but a box of his things because he knew I'd just waste money. Knew I'd turn cash into cocaine, into regret, into nothing. The box is in my closet. Buried, hidden, avoided. I pull it out, and for a moment I consider not opening it. Consider leaving it closed forever. Consider dying without knowing what's inside, because knowing means confronting the fact that he's dead, that I didn't save him, that he didn't save me, that we were both just humans failing at the basic task of staying alive and connected. But I open it. Inside his watch. Stopped at 3:47 p.m. The exact moment his heart stopped beating. The exact moment time ended for him and continued for everyone else. His wedding ring, plain gold, worn smooth by decades of being worn, of being a symbol, of being a promise kept. His wallet, $43 and a photo of me at age 7, gap-toothed and grinning like I still believed the world was good, like I still believed I deserved to be alive. And a letter, sealed, addressed to, open when you're ready to stop being stupid. I open it. Son, if you're reading this, you finally opened the box, which means you're either ready to grow up or you've run out of other options. Either way, I'll take it. You've always been smart enough to figure out what you should do with your life. The problem is you've been even smarter about figuring out how to avoid doing it. You've turned self-sabotage into an art form. And while I admire your commitment to your craft. It's time to retire from that particular performance. Here's what I know. You're going to be fine. Not because you're special or talented or destined for greatness, but because you're stubborn enough to survive yourself. The question isn't whether you'll survive. The question is whether you'll actually live. The watch is stopped at the moment I died. I want you to wind it up and start it again. That's your job now, to keep time moving forward instead of living in all the moments you wish you could change. Love, Dad. P.S. Stop wearing those stupid rings. I wind the watch. It ticks back to life. Time begins again. The seconds tick like small heartbeats, like small promises, like small payments on a debt I'm no longer sure I owe. Chapter 12, the new inscription, the cemetery. Final time. This time, no flowers, no performance. Just me and my father's watch and his wedding ring on my right hand, fitting perfectly like it was waiting for me, like he knew I'd need it, like he planned this too. My grave, still there, still mine, still threatening or promising depending on how I look at it. The stone still bears my name, partially destroyed by my earlier work. Still reads 1980-920-25. Still has the month blank, still waiting for me to fill in the date, still giving me a chance to write a different ending. I pull out the chisel. This time, not destruction, creation. Below who tried, I carve new letters, crude, unpracticed, bloody. My hands blister and break, but I keep carving, and eventually succeeded. 2 hours of carving. 2 hours of rewriting my own epitaph. 2 hours of deciding that trying and eventually succeeding is better than never trying at all, is better than dying with a blank space where the month should be. A woman approaches. Scrubs. Exhausted in the way healthcare workers are exhausted, like they've seen too much death to romanticize it, like they've held too many hands as they went cold, like they know that death is not poetic or meaningful, but just a thing that happens to bodies when they stop working. That's your grave. Not a question, an observation. It's complicated. Death usually is. She looks at the inscription. Are you planning to die this year? I was, but I made a down payment on not dying instead. I paid in full, cash, non-refundable. Good investment. She places flowers on a nearby grave. White carnations. Clean, practical. Her father, she says. Dead 3 months. Still can't believe it, even though she was there at the end. Even though she watched him stop breathing. Even though she pronounced him dead herself. Because that's her job. Because death is her job. Because she spends her days fighting death and her nights visiting it. I'm Caroline. I pause. The person I was. The person I'm becoming. The person I'm pretending to be. The person I might actually be if I stop pretending. You're making a down payment, she says. That's enough of an introduction for now. We walk out together, talking about nothing, about everything, about her shift at the hospital and my studio apartment and Korean food, and the weather, and all the ordinary subjects that constitute actual living when you're not too busy dying. At the gate, she writes her number on my palm with a pen from her purse. The ink is blue. The numbers are clear. This is not a metaphor. This is a phone number. This is a possibility. Text me if you want to get coffee. Not as a date. Just as two people who are trying to figure out how to keep living in a world that seems designed to kill us. I will, and I do. Epilogue, the payment plan. The down payment, I finally understand, is not a single transaction. It's a subscription, a payment plan. You pay every day, every hour, every time you choose forward over backward, presence over absence, life over the easier option of slow death. Some days the payment is small, answering the phone, eating a real meal, taking a shower, getting out of bed. Some days it's large, ending a relationship that's killing you, starting a relationship that might save you, opening the box, reading the letter, winding the watch, but you keep paying. That's the contract you made when you decided to keep living. That night, in my studio apartment above the Korean restaurant, I write a note to my future self. Dear me, if you're reading this, you've backslid. You've returned to old patterns. That's okay. That's human. That's expected. But remember this moment. Remember the grave you found, and the watch you wound, and the choice you made to keep trying instead of just trying. Remember that someone is waiting for you to become the person you're capable of being. The down payment is never complete. You pay it every day, every hour, every time you choose life. Don't break the contract again. Love, you. I fold the note. Put it in the decorative box. Place it on my shelf next to my father's box, which is no longer closed, but open. Its contents integrated into my life instead of hidden from it. The watch ticks on my wrist. The ring circles my finger. Outside, the city continues its endless hum of other people's lives. I am one of them now. Not special, not doomed, just alive. Which turns out to be enough. Mrs. Kim from the restaurant brings me extra banchan without being asked. You look different, she says. Different how? Like you might stay. I might, I say. And for the first time in years, I mean it. The kimchi stew smells like fermentation, like death becoming life, like the down payment I've been making finally starting to accrue interest. I eat slowly. I taste each bite. I stay.